Good morning, everyone. I see we have some attendees trickling in here. Thank you for joining us today. We'll go ahead and get started here in a few minutes. But in the meantime, if you could just write in your name and where you're joining us from in the chat, just to see which of our project success partners have made it with us today, as well as our other colleagues across the country. And we'll go ahead and get started here in a few minutes. Okay, perfect. And just as everyone comes in, if you could just share where you're joining us from in the chat. We are going to hold tight here for a minute or two before we get started, just to let everyone have time to join and come in. And then we'll go ahead and get started with our webinar for today, which is the Student Financial Wellness Survey Fall 2022 aggregate results for our private colleges and universities. And thank you for joining us. All right, looks like most of our attendees have joined us. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us for this webinar on the Fall 2022 Student Financial Wellness Survey results for our private colleges and universities. We have a wonderful panel here today, and we're going to go ahead and get started with some introductions. And I'll go ahead and kick us off. My name is Allison Cornett, and I'm a senior research analyst here at Trellis. I've been on the Trellis Research team since 2017, and I lead a lot of our survey and qualitative research initiatives, including the administration and design of the Student Financial Wellness Survey, as well as dozens of other projects investigating the basic needs, security, finances, and mental health of college students. I'm very happy to be joined here today by my colleague, Carla Fletcher. I'll let her go ahead and introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Carla Fletcher. I'm a senior research analyst at Trellis, and I've been at the Trellis company since 2005. I've developed and maintained numerous public policy reports and online tools related to things like student loan debt, FAFSA completion, and student loan counseling, among many other topics. And I've also been working on the Student Financial Wellness Survey project for several years now with Allison. And I will hand off to Abby to introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Abby Willems, and I joined the Trellis company actually in spring of 2023. You may recognize my name because I have likely sent you an email about the Student Financial Wellness Survey. I am coordinating the recruitment for this fall. Previously to this role, I was at the University of Texas at Austin in their Center for Community College student engagement. So I'm excited to be at Trellis, and I'm excited to be working on this project this fall.
All right, my name is Vanessa Orr. I'm with the University of New Haven. I'm Assistant Director of Financial Aid there. But part of my role is also our financial wellness program. I've been with that program for about 4 years now. But prior to that, I have over 15 years experience in different roles, including financial wellness and preparation, helping students prepare for college. And right now, too, I'm in the midst of my own personal helping my students prepare for college with my own children as they are starting their career path in that role.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Pedro Tequerina, student engagement coordinator here at Our Lady Lake University. I've been at this university for 4 years, just completed the 4 years actually yesterday. And I've been 3 years in this role, and since I've been working in this aspect of in the student affairs office as the student engagement coordinator, I've been coordinating with Trellis and participating in their financial wellness surveys, and we look forward to continuing them. And my roles here on campus is pretty much engaging with our students, helping them with any issues they have going on throughout the semester, and ultimately being an advocate and getting them to graduation.
Perfect. Thanks, Pedro. And really excited about the panel we have today. And let's go ahead and get started. Perfect. So for those who don't know Trellis Company, we are a nonprofit organization that is focused on helping people leverage the power of post-secondary education and learning to improve their quality of life in the communities where they live. So our mission is to develop and advance initiatives that grow individual economic mobility and expand community prosperity. And research has always been a part of what Trellis is about. We have over 30 years of experience conducting higher education research for both colleges and policymakers, and we design and implement research strategies focused on higher education. We look at student success primarily through the lens of college affordability. And so there are a few different ways to catch up with us and see what we're doing. The QR code on this slide leads you to a form to sign up for our monthly newsletter, which has original content like briefs and blogs each month. And you can also visit our webpage to see our library of free publications. You can also follow us on Twitter at Trellis Research. But our premier research initiative here at Trellis is the Student Financial Wellness Survey. The Student Financial Wellness Survey, or SFWS, is a self-reported online survey that documents the financial well-being and student success indicators of post-secondary students here in the United States. The survey is free for schools to participate, and Trellis uses the data to produce customized reports to participating schools, and then produces more aggregated reports to inform policymakers. Schools can use the results to raise money, develop programs, assess initiatives, and build a culture of care for their students. So since spring 2018, we have sent survey invitations to almost 2.4 million students from 231 schools across 33 states, and we've received survey responses from over 200,000 students. And while the survey covers a variety of topics, the median time spent taking the survey is about 14 minutes, which is pretty good. And we have conducted cognitive testing with students multiple times over the years and continue to receive positive feedback on the instrument. And that translates into about 80% of students who start the survey finish the survey. So for today, we'll cover the fall 2022 national results for participating private four-year colleges and universities. And more than 25,000 students at these institutions were sent survey invitations, and we received responses from almost 4,000 students. And just here's our agenda for today. So we're going to start by showing you some fall 2022 results for the participating private institutions. We'll look at distress indicators, student success indicators, and parenting students, paying for college and use of credit, and financial behaviors. Then we'll hear from Vanessa and Pedro about their experiences with the survey and how they have used the data. And then Abby will wrap it up by talking about how to participate this upcoming fall. So let's get started with distress indicators among college students. So paying for college, as we know, can be stressful and challenging, and many students report having financial difficulties while they're enrolled. In this section, we're going to look at financial security, including basic needs security of these students. So we'll start with our quintessential financial fragility question, which asks, would you have trouble getting $500 in cash or credit in order to meet an unexpected need within the next month? More than half of respondents overall and among the private institutions said they would have trouble getting that amount of money in case of an emergency. And in addition to this $500 question, we also ask a related hypothetical question. This question asks you to imagine that you had to pay that $500 cost unexpectedly in the next month. Then it asks you, what resource would you turn to first? And we see that turning to family is the most commonly selected options for respondents from private institutions, followed closely by using their personal savings. Some respondents said they would have to use a credit card, delay paying a bill, reduce their spending, or sell their possessions in order to find that amount of money. And there was also an option in the question responses to say that they would not be able to get $500 from any resource, and 15% of private institution respondents selected this option. So that's obviously very concerning. Students also ran out of money during the year. Overall, about 2/3 of respondents said they had run out of money at least once during the 2022 year, and 20% said they ran out of money 8 or more times. And here we see that respondents from private institutions look very similar to the overall respondents on this measure. Financial insecurity often leads to basic needs insecurity. Students who struggle with basic needs have a more difficult path to earning their degree, and their struggles make it very difficult to focus on schoolwork and being academically successful, and this has far-reaching impacts on other aspects of their lives, including their mental and emotional health, social lives, and physical well-being. So let's get started by looking at the basic needs data, and we're going to start with food insecurity. So in the Student Financial Wellness Survey, we use a 6-question validated scale from the U.S. Department of Agriculture to assess food insecurity among students. And we found that 46% of respondents show signs of either low food security or very low food security within the prior 30 days to taking the survey. And to help address this crisis on college campuses, many institutions have implemented on-campus food distribution centers like food pantries or food closets to help students struggling to meet their basic needs. So knowing this, our team added a few questions related to the food pantries to the instrument. And we saw that half of the participating private four-year institutions in our 2022 survey had a food pantry. And when we took a look at the students who attended a school with an on-campus food pantry, less than a quarter were aware that that pantry existed on campus. Students who are food insecure are also much more likely to experience housing insecurity. Our survey uses a modified housing security scale developed in coordination with the Hope Center for College, Community, and Justice and Dr. Rashida Crutchfield at CSU Long Beach. And using this scale, we saw that 41% of students at private universities were identified as housing insecure. And homelessness, the most extreme form of housing insecurity, is a serious obstacle to students achieving their full academic potential. While only 4% of students explicitly self-identified as being homeless while in college, 11% indicated they were unhoused since starting college or within the 12 months before the survey through the responses to the homelessness scale. And we saw the most common expression of homelessness occurred when students temporarily stayed with a relative or friend or couch surfed while looking for housing, with 9% of respondents saying they had done this in the past year. College students also frequently experience one or more forms of basic needs insecurity at a time, whether that be food insecurity, housing insecurity, or homelessness. However, basic needs security can also be fluid and change over time, meaning a student may be food secure during the fall semester, but suffer very low food security in the spring. And those who experience multiple forms of insecurity during the year may not necessarily experience them all at the same time. Overall, we saw that 59% of surveyed students enrolled at private institutions had experienced at least one form of insecurity, whether that was food insecurity, housing insecurity, or homelessness in the prior 12 months. 28% of these students who responded to the survey had experienced both food insecurity and housing insecurity. And overall, we saw that 8% have faced all three forms: food insecurity, housing insecurity, and homelessness within the past year. In the survey, we also take a look at mental health. Mental health and challenges in college can have severe consequences on students' lives, including their energy levels, cognitive ability, their relationships with friends and family, and their academic performance. Concerns over student mental health were prevalent in college campuses long before the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, but the pandemic heightened the levels of these conditions and also increased awareness of the importance of addressing them. So we include 2 short-form validated scales in our survey that screen for generalized anxiety disorder and major depressive disorder. And we found that mental health concerns were pretty common among these respondents. In 2022, 32% of respondents were likely to meet the conditions for the diagnosis of depression, and 45% of students at private institutions indicated they were experiencing generalized anxiety disorder. We also asked respondents if their college had mental health or counseling services available for these students. All of the private institutions that participated in the fall 2022 survey did have these services available. And among respondents at these institutions, around 3/4 were aware of these resources, which is much higher than the average for all undergraduates. So in our report this year, we look at 10 indicators of distress among students in a variety of different ways. So the 10 indicators that we measured are: experience financial difficulties or challenges while enrolled, would have trouble getting $500 in cash or credit in an emergency in the next month, would not be able to get $500 in an emergency, running out of money 8 or more times during the year, and selling their belongings to make ends meet. Our other indicators are that they indicated major depressive disorder, they indicated generalized anxiety disorder, they experienced very low food security, experienced housing insecurity, and experienced homelessness. And so hopefully you can see this on your screen. It might be a little small, but you can see these 10 indicators in the left-hand column of this table. And for this slide, we're going to look at a variety of student characteristics here. And that includes non-white, female, first generation, and enrolled part-time. And the second row that is highlighted in green is our comparison group, all private 4-year respondents. So there are many interesting things in this table, but I've highlighted in red a couple of indicators here. So respondents who said they would not be able to get $500 from any resource in case of an emergency, and those who said they ran out of money 8 or more times, had much higher percentages of non-white, female, first generation, or enrolled part-time compared to all of our private institution respondents. So for example, 32% of all private institution respondents were first generation students, but more than half of those who would not be able to get $500 in an emergency were first generation students. So we see that first generation students are overrepresented in this distress indicator. And you're going to see a few more versions of this table. We really like this table this year, looking at the same key distress indicators by a variety of different variables. But for now, I'm going to hand it over to Carla to move on to the student success indicators.
Thank you, Allison. So in this brief section, we'll look at student success indicators and briefly also at student parents. So the survey, the Student Financial Wellness Survey, is completed by currently enrolled students at a single point in time. So with the survey data alone, we can't determine which students are academically successful or will be academically successful. But we wanted to try to get closer to that idea. So we added a few questions to the survey last year to try to capture the conditions that may make it harder or easier for students to be successful. And one of those questions asks, of students who said they had experienced financial difficulties or challenges while in college, if they have difficulty concentrating on schoolwork because of their financial situation. So overall, 45% of these students at private institutions said that they did have trouble concentrating on their schoolwork because of their financial difficulties or challenges. And now, as Allison mentioned, we are enjoying this table this year. So we're going to look at this difficulty concentrating variable along with a couple of other new variables. So in the left-hand column is that same list of the 10 distress indicators that Allison introduced in the last section. And this time we're looking at the percentage of parenting students who said they missed classes due to a lack of childcare, the percentage of respondents who said they missed classes due to a lack of transportation, and then that question about the difficulty concentrating. So again, that comparison group is the green highlighted row, all of the private institution respondents. And in this table, we see that those who had experienced basic needs and securities reported missing classes and having difficulty concentrating in higher percentages. So for example, 37% of parenting students who had experienced homelessness reported missing classes due to a lack of childcare. 72% of students who reported having very low food security said they had difficulty concentrating on their schoolwork because of their financial situation. So many of these students are having a lot of trouble in these areas. And you can also see from this table that many respondents were parents, that first column after the 10 indicators. So overall in our survey, 22% of respondents nationwide were raising children while in college. In the private institution sector, 25% were parents. Parenting students often encounter significant barriers accessing and completing college. So we're going to take a quick look at those students with their own table. So the same 10 distress indicators in that left-hand column, but we've flipped the direction that this is read. So the comparison group is highlighted in green. Again, all private four-year respondents, but now it's in a column instead of a row. So just to show how we're reading the table, 73% of all undergraduate respondents said that they had experienced financial difficulties while enrolled. 75% of private institution respondents overall said they had experienced financial difficulties while enrolled. 83% of parenting students at private institutions said they had experienced financial difficulties, and 74% of non-parenting students at private institutions said they had experienced financial difficulties. So again, a lot of interesting findings, but I'm going to highlight just a few variables. Respondents with children were particularly likely to report not being able to find $500 in an emergency, running out of money, and selling belongings to make ends meet. And we also see huge differences between parenting students and non-parenting students regarding housing insecurity. 61% of parenting students said they had experienced housing insecurity compared to 34% of non-parenting students at the private institutions. So that's a gigantic difference between those groups. So now in this next section, we're going to take a look at how students pay for college. We know students rely on many different resources to pay for college. And so we have a series of questions in the survey to try to understand those different resources. And we group them into four broader categories: self-help, family support, grants, and credit. And so we're going to go through each of these. In the self-help category, we have current employment and personal savings. A little more than half of respondents reported using each of these resources to pay for school. However, only 1% of respondents at private institutions used only these self-help resources to pay for school. So almost all students need help from more than just current employment or personal savings to pay for their education. So let's take a look at those other resources. In family support, we have two: general support, financial support from parents or family, and student loans that the parents take out. So almost half of private institution respondents had financial support from their family, and close to a quarter benefited from loans taken out by their parents. And that, of course, is much higher than what we see overall in the survey. And then looking at grants, there are three resources in this category: Pell Grants or other grants, scholarships, and veterans benefits. And scholarships were quite common in the private sector. With 68% of our private respondents saying that they had used a scholarship to help pay for school. And more than half of respondents overall and in the private institution reported using grants. Small percentages of respondents reported using veterans benefits. And then lastly, looking at the credit resources, this category includes student loans that the student borrows, credit cards, and student loans that the parents take out, which we did see in the family support category, but it makes sense in both. So we put it in both. Student borrowing is, as we can see, very common in the private four-year sector, with 60% of respondents saying that they had used student loans. And overall, a quarter of respondents, or over a quarter of respondents, both in the private institutions and overall for the survey, said that they had used a credit card to pay for school. All right, so in this table, we're looking at the same 10 distress indicators in the left-hand column, along with some various resources to pay for college, using a grant, using student loans, and those who did not have family support. And then we also have those who received emergency aid from their institution in the table. Now, we do see somewhat higher percentages of students experiencing distress indicators among all of these groups of students. So those who had grants, those who had student loan, those who did not have family support to help pay for college, and those who had received emergency aid all indicated slightly higher rates of experiencing most of these key distress indicators. We see these students in particular having trouble finding $500 in an emergency and experiencing housing insecurity. And then drilling down on credit cards just a little bit, a little over half of private institution respondents said they had used a credit card for something over the past year, not just for school expenses, but for anything. And the vast majority of these students reported that they always pay their credit card bill on time. 73% of our private institution respondents said that they pay their credit card bill on time, but only 41% reported paying the full balance off each month. So we're seeing that many students are probably accruing interest each month on that debt. And then diving into the credit card a little bit more in our favorite table, we have those same 10 distress indicators in the left-hand column. And we're looking at using a credit card, borrowing an auto title loan, and borrowing a payday loan. Now, the credit card users did not really differ much at all from the private institution respondents overall, but those who had borrowed an auto title loan or payday loan had higher rates of the distress indicators compared to all private institution respondents. So the red highlighted areas on the table, more than 3/4 of private institution respondents who had borrowed a payday loan said they had experienced financial difficulties while enrolled, would have trouble finding $500 in an emergency, and had experienced housing insecurity. So very high numbers there. And then in my last section, we're going to take a look at financial decision-making factors and behaviors, including openness to seek help and feelings about the return on investment of college. So we asked students about some financial worries in the survey. A little more than half of private four-year respondents and all respondents overall said they worry about being able to pay their current monthly expenses. And about 2/3 of private four-year respondents said they worry about having enough money to pay for school. Now, almost 60% of respondents in the private four-year sector and 60% overall indicated that they would be interested in using financial services like financial coaching if offered by their school. So this is good news. It opens up the option for institutions to help their students better understand their financial situation. And students who are struggling financially sometimes reach out to people on campus to talk about it. 1/3 of the private four-year respondents said that they had not reached out to anyone on campus to talk about any financial struggles, but the remaining most often reach out to a financial aid advisor, which makes sense. However, many students also reached out to faculty or staff who may not be as well versed in financial issues and therefore may not know how to help the students as well. And so we just like institutions to be aware that, I'm sure that y'all know, but students may reach out to anyone they feel comfortable with on campus. And so it's just good to keep that in mind. Now, this is a new question that we added that asks if the respondent feels the cost of college is a good investment for their financial future. Overall, about 2/3 of private institution respondents agreed or strongly agreed that it is. So we're pretty happy to see that. Of course, we always want to see that higher, but it's good to know that at least those who are in school currently, generally feel like it's worth their investment to get that degree. And then our last table here, again, we're looking at the same 10 distress indicators, and we're also looking at financial knowledge in the form of a scale that we have in the survey. Included in this table are the respondents who got all 3 questions in the scale wrong and respondents who got all 3 questions in the scale correct. And we also have respondents who said that they do not follow a budget and respondents who disagreed or strongly disagreed that they always pay their bills on time. Well, we see a big difference for those who don't always pay their bills on time. This group of students experienced all 10 distress indicators at significantly higher rates compared to all respondents. So 94% of these students said they had experienced financial difficulties while enrolled, and 85% said they would have trouble finding $500 in an emergency. And more than 3/4 of them had experienced housing insecurity. Okay, so with that, I would like to bring in our institutional panel, our distinguished guest, Pedro Tijerina from Our Lady of the Lake University in San Antonio, Texas, and Vanessa Ort from the University of New Haven in West Haven, Connecticut. Both of these schools have participated in the Student Financial Wellness Survey for multiple years, so we're very interested to hear about their experiences with the process and findings. Before we get into that, though, I'd like to ask each panelist to tell us a little about their institutions. So we'll start with Pedro.
Hello, everyone. So Our Lady of the Lake University, we're located here in the beautiful San Antonio, Texas. We just got Wemby, so big Spurs community here in San Antonio. So we're looking for great things there. But about OLU, right? OLU, short for Our Lady of the Lake University. We are a Hispanic serving institution. We serve roughly around 2,500 to 3,000 students per semester and throughout the year. We are very community-based university. We think about community first. We think about how can our students impact the community? How can we as staff, employees, faculty impact our students to have that impact on the community as well? Other factors, we have, although in San Antonio, we are located in the west side. If you're not familiar with San Antonio, the west side of San Antonio is more of the lower financial end. So we do experience a lot of those difficulties with the community finances. We do see a lot of homeless around here, and our students are able to see that, which kind of plays into the community aspect of our students and embedding that into our students as well.
Great, thank you, Pedro. And then Vanessa, what about University of New Haven?
Okay, so the University of New Haven is located in West Haven, Connecticut, which is right outside of New Haven, Connecticut. And we have a student population of about almost 7,000 students, both grad and undergraduate. We're a private four-year college with graduate programs too. We have about 5,000 undergrad students, about 2,500 graduate. About 30% of our students self-identify as underrepresented, as well as about 40% are considered our first generation students. So we have a pretty decent sized population with first generation. And about 85% have received some kind of financial aid. About 30% of students that are, if you're familiar with financial aid, about 30% Pell Grants, so that's usually high need. And our average student loan debt here at the university is about $27,000, which is kind of very similar to the national average too. So we are definitely dealing with a lot of those factors that Carla and Allison talked about, which kind of represents what students are struggling with when it comes to paying for college.
Great, thank you. So Pedro, can you start by talking a bit about the process to get started in participating in the financial wellness survey?
Yes, the process was pretty simple. My first time doing it was during the fall of 2021. My boss just told me, here, we're going to do this, sir. We're going to be a part of this survey. Make it happen. Here's the IRB application. Make it happen, right? So first time doing an IRB. So I was very nervous, but everyone at Trellis were extremely helpful. They gave me all the information that I needed. It was just pretty much plug and play, so some of the things that we had to come up with is like incentives. I know Trellis they had their incentives, but we also wanted to include our incentives as well. So, but again, very easy to implement that into the information that was given to us. So the process is very simple. Getting the information, plug and play, sending it over to our IRB processors. If they had any questions, concerns, of course, they would come to me. And then if I had any questions, concerns that I couldn't correct at that moment, that's when I would reach out to Carla and the Trellis Research team. And of course, they got back to me in a fast pace and send it right back in.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Pedro. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So as you said, if there's ever any issues, you can just reach right out to us.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So Vanessa, can you talk about your process to reach out to your student population to let them know about the survey?
Absolutely. And I agree with Pedro. Working with Trellis has been very easy. They have everything really set up for us. And I'll talk a little bit about that. So when we participated in this program for the survey for the past 3 years. So the first year I wasn't part of it, and we had a very low output when it came to our participation rate. So it was really great. So I think it was pretty low, and then because I think it kind of started new, but now we have about almost a 13% participation rate, which I think is pretty good considering. So, and it's been that way consistently for the past 2 times that we've done it in 2019 and 2021. So some of the things that we did do is we did, as well as the incentive through Trellis, there is an incentive that we participate, that we did offer. We offered like an Amazon gift card as a part of it. But some of the things that we did, so Trellis will provide you with a really great template of how you want to start your marketing. But we took it one step further and what I really do believe is that we tried to do multifaceted marketing when it came to getting that information out to our students and having them participate. So we worked with some of our cross-campus partners, so such as residential life, student activities, and we try to plug in as many different ways as we can on top of that. So we would create the marketing plan. So Trellis would then send out their bulk mailing, and then we would either preempt it with an email to all of our students, as well as then a follow-ups in between those times. And we tried to do it in a timely fashion where it wasn't too much, but enough that we could continue to, kind of nudge the students, which is a great book if you haven't read it before, nudge the students into participating in this program, which would survey. And so most students wanted to have a say. They felt very strongly about, being heard regarding when it comes to financial, the financial wellness. So I think that helped too. But we participated in events such as like our Fall Fest. We sent information out to all the residential hall directors and assistants that we do have on campus. We popped up in all different areas on campus, so we were very visual. So that was also something that helped. We had TVs, we did a lot of marketing. Probably this year when we participate, we're trying to do it every 2 years. Participate in it. We'll probably start taking advantage of some of our text messaging avenues too. Just again, another quick way to start and just nudge students to remind them that they can to participate, to take advantage of those incentives and just to be heard.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's so helpful to have such active partnership with the institution, because we can only do so much on our end if the student has no idea who Trellis is. So we really need the school to kind of jump in and be like, "This is cool. You guys should do this. We support this," because otherwise they're probably just deleting that email thinking it's spam. So yeah, we really appreciate that partnership. Great. So Pedro, how have you and your colleagues used the survey results for grants?
So the results, we use it for many areas, grants, programming and stuff, but just specifically on grants, we've been able to utilize that information that was given to us to seek out emergency funding for our students. Providing scholarships for our students through grants, right? Grant scholarships. Also using some of the funding allocations to go towards tuition assistance. So we've been very creative in ways that we can seek out grants, seek out funds for our students in different areas. Also seek out programming, especially financial literacy for our students. And we've been able to implement it into our strategic planning to also seek out different grants for different timeframes as a university. So the information that we've been getting has helped out a lot. In the past 2 years, we've been having in my office, we deal with emergency funding, a lot of grants, a lot of scholarships. So we've been able to provide these opportunities to assist our students that are facing everything that we've talked about: homelessness, food insecurity, and all those. And that's all due to the information that was given to us and us using that information to seek out grants for our students, for their needs.
So good to hear. We all want to make a difference, so that's great.
And
then Vanessa. Oh, really? Thank you. I appreciate that. And I mean, you guys are taking that information and really running with it to support your students in the best way that you can. So that's wonderful. So Vanessa, how has the University of New Haven used the survey findings?
So one of the nice things too, if you haven't participated in this program before, is that the results come back, and within there's embedded like all the results, but also some of the things that they've uncovered and some research-based solutions. So you're not just getting, for me, that was super valuable because I could then take this information So having the survey results gave me an opportunity to have really strong data to be able to present instead of saying, that's more powerful than saying, we need this and it feels good. It's just like, we need this and these are the results of why we need this, these programs. So as I mentioned before, I took over the financial wellness program. It was just a committee, and now we have like a program where we have, a financial, like a program series. We have peer coaching, which was one of the things that we gathered from the information we talked about, having a place to research, to have to resource for students to go to because they want to give us information, and as well as one of the first things when we did this financial wellness survey was we created a campus closet / food pantry back in 2018. So that was really, again, so a lot of this information kind of came from some of those research-based ideas or results from the survey. And then we were able to then take that and bring this. Just recently from 2021, the mental health component was a big piece of it. And one of the things was just that professional development for faculty and staff of where students can go to provide support, whether it's just, counseling, support with homelessness, food insecurity, as well as financial, planning. So that has been really a great, way to kind of also for me personally as developing this program, it's given me a great way to set my goals and align to what students' needs are, because, you might feel that something is really great and we all need it, but, it's not going to meet a student's needs. It's not going to be well attended. So that's really taken the program that I started at the University of New Haven and kind of propelled it in the right direction. So there's many great things that you can do. Overall, when I first had this survey presented to me, I really was excited because they also gave me a baseline. So like I said, we do years of we usually take, and then we can kind of compare it, and give us a little test, litmus test of how we're doing and are we meeting the students' needs and what we're already implementing too.
So it sounds like you're using the information in so many different ways, and that's awesome. Great. Well, thank you both so much for your input on those questions. And I would like to invite the people. Oh, yes, Pedro.
Yes, sorry about that. I just wanted
no.
I loved everything that she said, because again, with us, we're using that information that we've gotten, not only for grants, but like programming, mental health, peer mentors. We were in the process of getting a food pantry, but this also this gave it more momentum to create our food pantry on campus. So this information is just extremely helpful. So if you haven't already participated, this is the year you're gonna get a lot of information back, and you'll be able to use that data for moving forward. So I just want to say that.
I love it. I love the plug. That's great. I wanted to invite everyone who's watching the webinar to put questions in the Q&A if you have questions. And we're about to get into our last section here where Abby's going to talk about how to participate in the upcoming fall survey or future falls. So while she's talking about that, if you guys have any questions, you can pop it in the Q&A and we will take a look at that afterwards. And then I also, before I forget, wanted to mention that there will be a survey after the webinar ends. And so if you guys are able to just stick around for a second and complete that survey, we would really appreciate it. So with that, I will turn it over to Abby, and I'm going to share the PowerPoint again. There you go.
Thanks, Carla. And thank you so much, Pedro and Vanessa. Anything we can say, I think, is 10 times more impactful coming from you all, really hearing how you're using the results and the difference that it's making for students. I think that's the most important piece here. So we really appreciate y'all's time and your feedback on that. So in this last part of the webinar, I'm just going to give some information about how to participate in future implementations, including this fall. It's not too late for this fall. So we really hope that you found these results interesting, and as well as the feedback from Pedro and Vanessa, and that you may consider looking into participating. So as far as the deliverables that you will receive if you participate, each participating school receives several things. This includes a customized report that highlights summary findings from the school's respondents alongside a comparison group made up of the participating schools in your sector. We also provide a technical supplement that lays out the frequencies for every question on the survey. And then we create a one-page infographic for each school that features key findings from the survey and a visual presentation that's easy to share with folks that may or may not read the full report. It's a long report, so that visual is really nice. We're also available for additional ad hoc reporting on your school's results if there's particular populations or areas you're interested in drilling down on. And then we're happy to present on the findings to campus stakeholders, and so that everyone's able to see those results, and you can share them with, higher up people to really get some of those initiatives going. And then everyone will be able to see our publicly released reports summarizing all survey results in an aggregate report and briefs on special topics. And then for data security, so we know this is really important. All research team members are certified in human subjects research and have corporate training and procedures on data security and data retention schedules. We take this really seriously at Trellis. Our company has decades of experience working with sensitive data. And then Pedro mentioned this, but we do go through IRB review at every single institution. It does often end up being waived, but we've worked on dozens of IRBs to different degrees over the years and can really answer any question that can come up. So like Pedro said, we can provide you the documents and then you fill it in, all the way to we can complete those applications. So however that works at your institution, that's something that we were able to help with. And then we will never release individual level data, even de-identified, to anyone. So only summary level data will ever be shared outside of Trellis. So as far as the steps to participate, the first step in the process is the letter of intent to participate. And this is signed by a senior campus official. We have a template of that letter that can be used, and that's something that I can share with you as well. And then once again, we'll work with institutions on that IRB approval. Then institutions will provide a sample of students, depending on your campus size, including email addresses and demographics, prior to survey administration. So this list is sent to Trellis using our secured file transfer system. And then institutions will schedule that outreach to students, which we mentioned, Carla mentioned as well, as they don't know who we are. So it's really nice for them to hear it from you all. So you'll schedule that outreach. We'll provide a timeline and sample language that you can use to give them a heads up for the survey. And then market the survey and incentives for completion. So we do offer survey-wide incentives across all participating schools, but we do encourage institutions to offer your own incentive as well. It doesn't need to be a big expense. It can be as small as school swag or bookstore gift cards. This just lets students know that your school's invested and wants them to complete it. And then we find on average that institutions that offer even these small incentives have a response rate 2 to 3% percentage points higher than institutions that don't. And then as well, any marketing of the survey helps to get that word out, and then encourages students to complete it. And then everything else comes from us. It comes from our Qualtrics system. So we really do try to make it low lift, and it's nice to hear from Pedro and Vanessa that it is a pretty low lift on y'all's end. that there's some things on the front end, but then we really do try to take it from there. So we are in active recruitment. And as I said, you may have already received emails from me, but we are doing outreach to individual schools and larger groups, such as this webinar, to really get the word out about the survey. Institutions can go through the steps at any point. Go ahead and send me that letter of intent. I am actively collecting them, except for the data. That data can't be sent until after your census date for the fall semester. But most of our active onboarding is taking place in July, August, and early September. And then all of our steps do need to be completed by September the 25th. So September the 25th is the deadline to have that data request as well as that letter of intent into me. So we're about 2 months out from that point. So there is time, but now is the time to start thinking about it. We will launch this fall survey on October the 23rd, and it will be open for 3 weeks. So we will handle the launch in most of those survey reminders. Like I said, that's done through our Qualtrics system. And then after the survey closes, the results are available. We can help with presentations and convenings, conducting further analysis, and planning for future years. So like I said, you can get started today. That link that the QR code there will take you to, it has a lot of information about the survey. You can also reach out to me, and I can send you just bukus of documents. So if you have a question, I can send you a document for it. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I'm also happy to hop on a phone call or a Zoom with yourself or anybody at your school who has questions about getting started or any concerns. I'm happy to answer those. So I know we may have some time for questions. So I will hand it back over to Carla for that.
Someone asked, do any institutions use this as a tool to identify specific students in need of assistance? And so I believe I have heard of institutions doing that, but I would love to hear from Pedro or Vanessa. Do y'all use it in that way?
The way that we usually reach out to those students, we kind of send it out to everyone pretty much in the beginning of the semester. We reach out, just letting them know of their resources. When it comes to the student financial wellness survey, we don't get specific students information of what the replies were. And so it kind of makes it hard for us to find out who it was. But this helps us to understand that there is an issue. So that helps me and the office kind of make a reach out to everyone and just kind of express those resources to everyone that, hey, we are here to assist you. We have resources. If we see from the findings that, you know what, finances is a thing, we have assistance for you. Emergency funding, we have tuition assistance. So that's our way of reaching out to everyone from the information that was given to us.
Yeah, I agree with Pedro. You can't really identify the specific student that answers the survey, but you can identify groups or, so, like I mentioned before, first generation or, so just to kind of give you an idea from what is the survey data. And that's where we can learn, we can use that information to kind of drill down on what could we be doing to reach out to or promote, resources and tools.
Great, thank you guys. And it looks like we don't have more questions and we are just about out of time here. So I think we will go ahead and end that there. Really wanted to say thank you so much to Pedro and Vanessa and Abby and Allison for joining me and on this webinar. Really great information. Really appreciate you guys taking the time to share that. And we hope that those on the webinar got some good information and might be interested in looking into the survey. Go ahead and reach out to Abby if that's the case, and she can help you get started on that. Thank you everyone for your time.